Want to crack the toughest AI and ML interviews in 2026? I've got the top 10 questions you need to know, covering real scenarios. Let's get you hired.
Hi everyone, welcome back to AI ML Tech Talks. If you're preparing for AI, machine learning, or GenAI interviews in 2026, this video is extremely important for you. In this video, I'll explain the top 10 AI and ML interview questions that are actually being asked in real interviews along with how interviewers expect you to think. So make sure you watch till the end, because question number 10 decides selection or rejection. Let's get started. The first and most common question is, what is the difference between AI, machine learning, and deep learning? Interviewers are not testing definitions here, they are testing fundamentals and clarity of understanding. Start with simple, then go deeper. AI is the bigger concept. It means making machines act intelligently. Machine learning is a subset of AI, where systems learn from data instead of rules. Deep learning is a subset of ML, which uses neural networks with multiple layers. A simple example: AI chatbot, ML spam email detection, deep learning face recognition. AI, machine learning, and deep learning, many people use these terms interchangeably. But in interviews, confusing them is a red flag. Let's break this down in the simplest way. AI is the broader concept of intelligence. Machine learning allows systems to learn from data, and deep learning uses multi-layer neural networks to learn complex patterns automatically. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is the broad concept of making machines act intelligently like humans. AI systems can think, reason, and make decisions. Some AI systems follow hard-coded rules and do not learn from data. For example, a rule-based chess program or a traditional chatbot is AI, but not machine learning. Machine learning is a subset of AI where machines learn from data instead of rules. The system finds patterns in historical data and improves its performance over time. Spam detection, recommendation systems, and price prediction are common machine learning applications. However, in machine learning, humans still decide what features the model should learn. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning that uses deep neural networks. These models automatically learn features from raw data like images, audio, and text. Deep learning powers face recognition, voice assistance, self-driving cars, and ChatGPT-like models. It requires large datasets and high computational power such as GPUs. In short, AI is the goal, machine learning is the method, and deep learning is the advanced technique. If you explain this clearly in an interview, you immediately create a strong impression. Next very important question. How do transformers work, and why are they better than RNNs or LSTMs? The key idea behind transformers is self-attention. Instead of reading data step by step like RNNs, transformers look at the entire sequence at once and decide which words are important. This makes them faster, more scalable, and more powerful. That's why models like BERT, GPT, and LLMs are all transformer-based. Transformers use self-attention to process sequences in parallel, making them faster, more scalable, and better at capturing long-range dependencies than RNNs or LSTMs. Transformers completely replaced RNNs and LSTMs. But why did this happen? Let's understand this step by step. RNNs and LSTMs process text one word at a time. This makes training slow and limits how much context they can remember. Even LSTMs struggle with very long sentences. Transformers solve this problem using attention. Instead of remembering everything, the model focuses on the most important words. And it processes all words in parallel. In self-attention, every word looks at every other word and decides how important it is. This allows the model to understand context, even across long distances in a sentence. Transformers use embeddings, positional encoding, multi-head attention, feed-forward layers, and residual connections. Together, these make training faster and more stable. Compared to RNNs and LSTMs, transformers are faster, more scalable, and better at understanding long context. That's why they power all modern AI models. Interviewers often ask, explain the bias variance trade-off with a real-world example. Bias means the model is too simple and it underfits. Variance means the model is too complex and it overfits. For example, if you're predicting house prices, a straight line model may miss patterns high bias. A very complex model may memorize data high variance. The bias-variance trade-off is the balance between underfitting and overfitting, where the goal is to build a model that generalizes well to unseen data. The bias-variance trade-off explains why a model fails even when accuracy looks good. Bias happens when a model is too simple and cannot learn the real patterns in data. This leads to underfitting, where both training and test errors are high. Variance happens when a model is too complex and learns noise from training data. This leads to overfitting, where training error is low but test error is high. Imagine predicting house prices. A simple linear model may ignore important factors and underfit. A very complex model may memorize training data and overfit. The best model balances bias and variance and works well on new data. To reduce bias, we increase model complexity. To reduce variance, we use regularization or more data. The goal is to balance both. Another very common question: how do you evaluate an ML model when data is imbalanced? Accuracy is dangerous when data is imbalanced. For imbalanced data, avoid accuracy and evaluate models using precision, recall, F1 score, PRAUC, and a confusion matrix aligned with business impact. Problem explanation: in imbalanced datasets, a model can achieve very high accuracy by predicting only the majority class, while completely failing on the minority class. Real-world example: in credit card fraud detection, fraud cases are very rare. A model with 99% accuracy can still miss all fraud transactions. Better metrics: instead of accuracy, we use precision, recall, F1 score, and PRAUC. Recall is critical when missing positives is costly, and PRAUC is especially useful for highly imbalanced data. Conclusion: the right evaluation metric depends on the business problem. For imbalanced data, focus on metrics that reflect minority class performance. A real-world question: what happens if your model performs well in training but fails in production? Sometimes a machine learning model performs extremely well during training, but once deployed in production, its performance drops significantly. Let's understand why this happens. When a model performs well in training but fails in production, it usually indicates overfitting, data drift, or train-serve skew, and the solution is better validation, monitoring, and retraining. Overfitting. One common reason is overfitting. The model learns patterns and noise specific to the training data instead of learning general patterns. As a result, it performs well on training data but fails on new, real-world data. Data drift. Another major reason is data drift. Production data often changes over time. User behavior, market trends, or external conditions may shift, causing the model's assumptions to become outdated. Train-serve skew. Train-serve skew happens when the data used during training is different from the data used in production. This can occur due to inconsistent preprocessing, missing features, or incorrect feature scaling. Data leakage. Sometimes the model accidentally learns from future or target-related data during training. This creates unrealistically high training performance, which disappears in production. Wrong evaluation metric. The model may be optimized for a metric like accuracy, while the business actually cares about recall, precision, or revenue impact. How to fix the problem? To fix this, we improve validation using cross-validation, reduce overfitting with regularization, monitor data drift, ensure training and production pipelines are identical, and retrain the model regularly. Very hot topic in 2026. Explain how you would fine-tune a large language model, LLM. Fine-tuning a large language model means adapting a pre-trained model for a specific task or domain. Fine-tuning adapts a pre-trained LLM to a specific task using domain data, often with parameter-efficient methods like LoRA to reduce cost and improve performance. Why fine-tuning? Pre-trained LLMs are general purpose. Fine-tuning helps them perform better in specialized domains like customer support or legal analysis. Step-by-step process. First, I select a suitable base model based on the task and compute budget. Next, I prepare high-quality prompt response training data. Then I choose a fine-tuning method, usually parameter-efficient techniques like LoRA, to reduce cost. I train the model using a small learning rate and validate performance carefully. Evaluation and deployment. After training, I evaluate the model using task-specific metrics and human review. Once validated, the model is deployed and continuously monitored in production. Conclusion. In summary, fine-tuning allows LLMs to specialize efficiently while balancing performance, cost, and scalability. Next question. What is feature leakage? How do you detect and prevent it? Feature leakage is one of the most dangerous problems in machine learning. Feature leakage happens when future or target-related information is used as input features, leading to unrealistic performance and production failure. What is feature leakage? Feature leakage occurs when a model uses information during training that would not be available when making real-world predictions. Real example. For example, in loan default prediction, using missed payments as a feature leaks future information. This gives high training accuracy but causes failure in production. Detection. We can detect feature leakage by watching for unrealistically high performance, analyzing feature importance, and validating models using time-based splits. Prevention. To prevent leakage, we split data before preprocessing, remove post-event features, and ensure all features are available at prediction time. Conclusion. Preventing feature leakage is critical for building reliable and production-ready machine learning models. Another practical question. How do you handle missing data and outliers in a dataset? Handling missing data and outliers is an essential step in data preprocessing. Missing data. First, I understand why the data is missing. If missing values are small in number, I may remove them. Otherwise, I use imputation techniques like mean or median for numerical data and mode for categorical data. For complex cases, I use advanced methods like KNN or regression imputation. Outliers. For outliers, I first detect them using methods like box plots or z-scores. If the outliers are errors, I remove them. If they represent real-world events, I keep them or apply transformations like log scaling. Conclusion. The key idea is to handle missing data and outliers carefully, based on data distribution and business context. Handle missing data using imputation or removal based on context, and treat outliers using detection, transformation, or capping, always guided by domain knowledge. Next question. What is MLOps and why is it important? What is MLOps? MLOps stands for Machine Learning Operations, and it focuses on managing machine learning models in production. MLOps combines machine learning, DevOps, and data engineering to automate model deployment, monitoring, and retraining. Why it's important? Without MLOps, models often fail in production due to data drift, scalability issues, or manual errors. MLOps ensures reliability and consistency. Real-world example. For example, in fraud detection, MLOps pipelines monitor performance, detect drift, retrain models, and deploy updates automatically. Conclusion. In summary, MLOps helps organizations move from experimental models to production-ready AI systems. The final and most important question. Design an AI system to detect fraud, recommend products, chat with users. ML system design. When designing an AI system, I always start with the business problem and constraints. Data and features. For fraud detection, I collect transaction and user behavior data and engineer features like transaction velocity and amount deviation. Feature quality is more important than model complexity. Model and evaluation. I start with simple models and move to advanced ones like XGBoost. Because data is imbalanced, I focus on recall and PRAC instead of accuracy. Deployment and monitoring. The model is deployed as a real-time service with strict latency requirements. I continuously monitor data drift, prediction distribution, and retrain the model when performance drops. Generalization. The same architecture applies to recommendation systems and chatbots, with changes in data, models, and metrics. Let me explain AI system design using a real fraud detection example. Problem and data. In a banking system, millions of transactions happen daily, and some are fraudulent. We collect transaction details like amount, location, device, and past behavior. Features and model. We convert raw data into features like spending deviation and location mismatch. Then we train models like XGBoost to predict the probability of fraud. Evaluation and deployment. Because fraud data is imbalanced, we focus on recall and PRAC instead of accuracy. The model is deployed as a real-time service that blocks or flags transactions instantly. Monitoring and conclusion. We continuously monitor model performance and retrain it when data patterns change. This ensures the system remains reliable in production. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this content helpful, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. Your support really helps us grow. Also, do share your feedback or questions in the comments below. See you in the next video. Happy learning!